And we're live.
Okay.
Welcome to the Maximum Mom podcast today. I am so excited today to have Sharon Christie talk to us. She is, well, Sharon, you tell us. Tell us
Sure.
what you do now.
Okay. I am a lawyer. I was a lawyer for many years. In the last 16 years of my career, I had a solo practice handling disability cases. Now I am a business strategist and business coach. My target audience is women lawyers in solo and small firms because that's what I did for most of my career. And my goal is to help women lawyers to create the practice that serves their needs best.
Oh, I love that. Wow. Okay, we're going to delve into that. Well, as you might know, a lot of times when I start this podcast, we talk about people's family and, you know, who's in their family and everything. So tell us a little bit about your family. I think I understand you have some old stepkids.
Correct. I am, I married later in life, much later in life. In fact, it was so much later. And my now husband took so long to propose. Everybody, my extended family, all my friends, first words out of their mouth to him when we got engaged was, "It's about time. What took you so long?" So I was fortunate enough when I married him to then have two stepchildren who were grown, pretty much grown. My stepdaughter was at that point out of college and married. My stepson was when we got married, he was in medical school.
Oh,
yeah. So, and now I do laugh about this. I have 6 grandchildren. And I say to my girlfriends, okay, I have no biological children. I say to them, how is it that I have no children, but I have more grandchildren than all of you? So So I'm having a ball with that. Having so much fun with them. Yeah.
That is wonderful. I love that. How fun. Now, do they live near you where you get to spend some time with them?
Half and half. So 3 live within an hour. The other 3 are much farther away, but we're actually going to go see them later this week for a beach vacation. So it's fun.
Fun. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I really want to dive in and talk to you about your coaching business. I mean, I find it fascinating, and I have checked out, I think your guide, like the Bold Woman Lawyer's Success Guide, I found to be super helpful. Tell us a little bit about your coaching business, kind of what is your why? How did you get into coaching in this business strategist?
So it came out of my own experience as a woman lawyer, deciding to go out on her own and looking for help, looking for people who could show me the way.
Right.
And I was looking for women and I couldn't find any. And I had many mentors along the way. And they were men, and that's fine. I'm not saying that they were bad at what they did. They were good at what they did, but they did it from the male point of view, right? And so I was in masterminds, and it would be almost all men. And I'd hear about how they would approach business problems and what they were doing with marketing, et cetera. And I learned the principles, but I realized that a lot of the implementation, it just didn't resonate with me. And I had to do it my own way. And so I figured out how to do it my own way. But after 16 years in private practice, in solo practice, many years in private practice, but I got to the point where I really wanted to. I had been thinking about coaching and business strategy for a long time, and I finally decided it was a time to do it. So there's a disability lawyer I know very well. She's an excellent lawyer, and we came to an agreement. I'm of counsel with her firm. She's handling all of my disability cases. I consult with them as needed, and then I'm available for all of my former clients as needed. So she took that over so I could get in full-time to the coaching, because I want to be, for other women lawyers, the person that I needed as I was coming along, but just couldn't find. So That's how I got into this.
I love it. Well, and tell us a little bit about how you can work with people, because I think your model is one that is very interesting and different than a lot of the coaching models out there.
Yes. So I have two ways that I work with people. I either do what I call a mini intensive, where we focus on one challenge that my client really wants to dig into and come up with an action plan for that one challenge. And it's a one session. We do that. Or I do 6 months one-on-one coaching, which is customized for where my clients are. So some clients are coming out of a bigger law firm and are going out on their own, or they may just be coming right out. Maybe they've been with government service and they want to set up a solo practice, or they have a practice that has reached a certain level and they want to get to the next level. And so I work primarily with women in solo and small firms. Now, when I say small, I'm talking about maybe 5 lawyers or less. I know that, the ABA says small is much bigger than that, but I'm talking about, typically smaller law firms, because it's easier to make decisions when you have just yourself or just a couple other people to work with.
Girl, you are preaching to the choir about that. I mean, our office has gotten pretty big, and I joke sometimes. I'm like, well, I'm going to ask 12 people before I can get approval of what I'd like to just do. And yeah, it's a process. I mean, obviously we could have a whole nother show on that. The positives of, really being able to really delegate off things that are not in my wheelhouse or not my strong suit,
yes.
Really bringing up people and raising leaders in my firm to make those decisions and move forward in things where they are better at it than I am. But sometimes you do get wrapped up in some bureaucracy that you probably don't necessarily envision when you're doing all this.
Exactly. I loved it when I was solo. It was like, well, I only have to agree with myself.
Exactly.
Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm the decision maker, and I don't have to convince anybody but me that this is the way to go. So Absolutely. It worked out okay.
Yeah. Well, I really want to dig in a little bit to your the mini intensives, because I find that to be, really powerful that you offer this. And I actually wish more people thought about this in this way, because I do think a lot of us, I know me, and maybe I'm slow in the uptake, but there's sometimes something that I just find myself thinking about a lot and really kind of stirring around. And I almost need that objective person who is not involved in any of it to just come in and kind of help. Can you give us an example of what a mini intensive subject matter might be, how you work with somebody in that session? What does that look like?
Sure. In fact, I just finished one last week, and this was with someone who was looking at adding a different area of practice, and really wanted to focus on how am I going to market for this type of practice, and had some specific questions about email marketing and what were some other options. And so that's what our whole session was about. Let's dig into this area of practice. Who do you want to serve within that area? Because, frequently I find people say, oh, I want to do X, family law. Okay, let's say family law. That's fine. But if you're going to craft a marketing message that will be effective, you need to be a lot narrower than I'm doing family law.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Is it, who is it? Is it the empty nesters who can't stand each other anymore?
Right.
Or is it, professionals who may have a lot of asset issues? Is it a couple with young children that are approaching college, et cetera? You know better than I, because you're the family lawyer. But first we had to work in on, let's narrow the field down a bit and figure out who for you in your practice is your ideal client, because it's different for everybody. who you really want to work with,
100%.
and who you work best with. Yeah. And so we spent some time doing that, and then focus, because she really wanted to focus on email. And email messages. And so we crafted some messages and some follow-ups, and came away with an action plan in terms of, this is who your ideal client is. This is the message you want to send. These are the sample emails. This is how frequently you would do it. Here's some other ideas you may want to consider also to add to your arsenal in terms of your marketing tools. So we came away with that action plan for her to implement. So that's what the intensive is about. It's, let's focus completely on that issue that you're thinking about or that you are challenged by, and come up with an action plan for it that you will implement. Now, yeah. And so, that's what that's for. The one-on-one is more for helping with the actual implementation. Right. Yes.
Right. Okay. So sometimes somebody could do one of these intensives, and then they might decide to come on as a 6-month client as they're implementing all of these things.
That's exactly right. And so, so we do the intensive. There's a week of follow-up emails when we're finished. And then I have a discount if somebody within a certain period of time decides, I really need somebody to help hold my feet to the fire and help me make sure this all gets implemented. And that then is a discount off of the 6-month coaching.
I mean, I think the accountability piece is key. I mean, I don't know about you, but that is definitely my struggle is, I'll have a million ideas, but actually executing and implementing on them, or delegating to the right person to execute and implement on them. That's where the real magic happens,
It totally is. And that's what, we all struggle with that. I have a business coach now to work with me on my coaching business, to hold my feet to the fire, because do I know what I need to do? Yes. But it's one thing to know what you need to do. It's a whole nother thing to actually be held accountable for it, and to have somebody that you can bounce the ideas off of. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think it's just game changing. I feel like I have said to people, people call me all the time, younger lawyers or whatever, and they just want to ask me questions. I'm not a coach, so, I don't charge them anything, and I talk to them. But every time I tell people, I'm like, oh, the money I have spent on coaching has been money well spent. Almost every single time I have really been able to propel myself and my firm forward in a way that I would not have been able to do on my own. Despite whatever knowledge lives in my head, actually getting it done is such the big important part of this.
It is. And it helps you to sort of clear the clutter out of your head, because there's, like you said, Elise, you have tons of ideas, but you have to have a way to sort that out. And doing it with the coach is really I think the easiest way to get to where you want to go. That's certainly been my experience, because I got a ton of great ideas, but I need to really get focused on which is the best route for me to take and how do I get there? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, and I find there's so many, at least again, for me, I can use different coaches. Like I can use a business strategist coach in one area, but then I might need a mindset coach in another area. Like if I'm struggling with something where I know it's kind of like my own mindset is kind of the hang up, or I'm having to get over my own, limitations.
Yes.
And that, so I have really utilized a variety of coaches in a variety of different settings, and still do, and find it really helpful. Just the other day, I had a coach say something, literally, I have no idea what she said the whole other hour, but she said one thing to me that has completely changed the way I think. And when I think of how many times a coach has done that for me, just said one thing, and it has truly just unlocked one of those aha moments where I'm like, whoa, I have been looking at this wrong for 54 years. that's kind of game changing, And
it is. Absolutely, it is. And yet it takes sort of getting out of your own head to be able to see that. Yeah. Totally.
But I mean, it is some powerful stuff. And I encourage people, and a lot of times younger people, they have young children, they're starting firms. These people are busy. I mean, they are scrambling in a million different directions. I remember what it was like to have a house full of toddlers. I mean, it is no cakewalk. But I tell people all the time, like, the money and time you spend on coaching will always be a good return on your investment. I mean, it is, I have never looked back on coaching and gone, oh, well, that was just not helpful at all. I mean, even if I get that one sentence, aha, I mean, it can change like my outlook on every future problem I have.
It can. It absolutely can. And what I find with a lot of women who are in the situation that you just described, they're trying to start a firm, run a firm, and they've got little ones at home, and and they think, I should be super lawyer, I should be the next Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I need to be super mom, I need to be super wife or super partner or whatever. It's like, whoa. Yeah. Whoa, step back, because we do a number on ourselves when we let ourselves get caught up in that. I have to be. The only thing you have to be is yourself.
Yep.
Exactly. And the best mom that you can be and the best lawyer that you can be. That doesn't mean you're the best lawyer in the world. You may well be, but you don't need to be that superstar or hold yourself up to a standard that's just not reasonable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there's something to be said for being like the best mom you can be in the moment. I mean, because sometimes from one moment to the next, it doesn't quite look the same. And do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you've seen and been around your grandchildren at times when like it does not look as pretty as it might look on social media or in other settings. And I mean, maybe being the best mom is simply being able to just be present and not lose your mind and not, maybe not even raise your voice in the moment or whatever it is,
Exactly.
But I mean, having that grace for yourself, I think is, and I mean, I am absolutely one who deals with this. I mean, many people who know me well, know I have my own internal mean girl. I call her Eloise. And she is often talking smack to me about things. And I have to like get on her all the time because I'm like, Eloise, that is not fair. Like, where did that come from? And really being able to engage in that talk back to your negative self-talk, because I think you're right. We really do a number on ourselves in what we expect.
We do. And we allow society's picture of who we should be to affect us. I mean, the greatest breakthrough I probably had for myself was when I got to the point where I said, I don't care what society says.
Exactly.
I should be, what it should look like, what my life should look like, what my practice should look like. No, because that's not all working for me. And I'm going to do what does work for me. And that's okay.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I mean, yes, like amen to that. I mean, learning to get to the point where you give like zero, I won't say the F word on here, but you give 0 Fs to what other people say you should do and how it should look and what it should be. I mean, when you can get to that point and realize that, I mean, the most important thing you can do is be authentic to who you are and what you believe and how it works for you. It makes everything else fall in line.
It totally does. It totally does. And that's true in your personal life and in your business life. If your path is not the standard path, that's fine. Totally. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting. I mean, I've been grappling, probably over the last few years, as our world has been politically, it's kind of all over the place and a little cray-cray in many areas. I have been really focused on the idea of really working with people who are similarly aligned. Like, I don't want to work with somebody who I feel like I'm kind of butting up against all the time on our values or in some other way. And it's been interesting to really come to terms with that. I mean, and really being kind of strong and somewhat maybe obstinate in that, and like asking people, like asking vendors and people I'm working with, you know, what do they think about certain things, and realizing, like, you know, we're not meant for everybody. Just like you were saying, not everyone is our ideal client. Not everyone is our ideal vendor. Not everyone is our ideal business partner. Not everyone is our ideal friend. And that's all okay for us to get discerning about that.
You know, it is. It totally is. And so we had rules in my solo practice, and my team and I came up with our parameters of what cases we would and wouldn't take, both in terms of strength of case, but also in terms of personality of client. And I had more than one conversation with cases that, because I had empowered them to actually do all the intakes, and sometimes it just wasn't a good fit. And I've had those conversations, and, you know, people would get upset, but I would say, listen, this is what your expectations are. This is not how this law firm operates. We're not going to be able to meet your expectations. You're going to be frustrated. I'm going to be extremely frustrated. But I know there's lawyers out there that can meet those expectations. And I'm going to give you referrals, you know, and it might be 2-lawyer referral, but this is just not going to work. And so I'm, you know, stepping out because I had those situations, just as I'm sure you did, where I'm tearing my hair out thinking, this client is just not a good fit for me. The team is crazy, you know, trying to please this person, and we can't meet their expectations.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, beyond that, there were some other, how do I say this? There were some other beliefs perhaps that were expressed. And I said, yeah, this just isn't going to work. So you have to step back. But the best thing, the first time I did that, it was very tough. You know, very tough.
Yeah. Well,
but
when
it got
you're a
easier.
Business owner and you're walking away from a paid client, I mean, I don't care how big your business is, how successful it is. I mean, it's scary. I think it is just plain scary. And I think we have to acknowledge that, you know, when you are making that decision. I have really tried, though, to understand and embrace every time I'm stepping away from a bad fit, I'm opening the door for 2 more good fits.
See, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And once you put those limits in place and those boundaries in place, you have done just what you said, Elise. You have now opened up time where you're going to find the people who do fit within those boundaries. And, you know, the reality is there's plenty of business out there. People feel like they come from the scarcity mentality, like, you know, I'm never going to get another client. That's not true. That's not true. You have to have systems in place to keep your pipeline moving and full, et cetera. But there's plenty of work out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and especially even in a recession. I mean, I know people get really nervous when they start, you know, reading about the world and going into a recession and looking at some of the things. I think there's so much that can be done to recession-proof your office, and really, like you say, make sure you have those systems in place, that you are keeping your pipeline moving, and you are doing everything you can to niche down even farther with your ideal client, because those people will become, even if they don't become clients, they will become your referral sources if you are doing what you need to do to truly be serving and providing value out in the world, whether it's marketing, sales, education, whatever that looks like. Those people will keep coming and your business will keep getting business.
It will. And I can tell you, I tell this story and people are like, are you kidding? I'm not kidding about this. People remember how you treated them whether you end up taking them on as a client or not.
Exactly.
And more than once, we had people call the office, and our motto was, we're lawyers, or this is a law firm. My staff was paralegals and legal assistants, but nonetheless, this is a law firm. We provide legal services, but we need to be about customer service, just like any other business.
Yep.
And people were treated so well by my team. They were fabulous that we had more than one occasion, somebody who we turned down referred other people to us and
Absolutely.
said, but, call them because they'll tell you the straight story. They're really easy to talk to, and hopefully they'll take your case.
I mean, it makes all the difference. I was speaking with actually Jordan, I think, who introduced you and I. Like,
yes.
And I was saying, Jordan and his family were just at our house yesterday, and we were talking about COVID and what happened during COVID. And I was saying how initially I was terrified about what was going to happen. Like, were we going to get new cases? What was that going to look like? And so one of the solutions I put into place was I was going to talk to every consult that came in the door. And in my mind, that was my way of giving back to the community, where people were really struggling with all these parenting plan questions and vaccine questions and, exposure to people questions. How do you deal with families and all this stuff, travel? And I thought, people are struggling in family law right now. And so I thought I can just talk to people. I mean, and whether I can take their case or not, I don't know. But I can at least give them some time, some referrals, some education sources. I cannot tell you how many of those people have turned into referral sources. I mean, just a bazillion of them. And
Exactly. And that, you recognize where people are coming from and what you could do to help them.
Yeah.
And people appreciate that. People
That
appreciate it.
Business owner is such an important part. I mean, I think of our business as serving others. I mean, truly, like, it is a service business. And so to figure out where can you serve, and in what, what is your ideal community to serve in, and in what way? I mean, some people, I'll use Jordan again. Jordan posted something today that was one of the most helpful things I've seen. It was all about social media and how to post different things on social media. And he literally had given each channel in all their specs on, how large the video could be and the size of pictures and all that. And I don't understand all that, but I literally could send it off to my team and say, like, this could be really helpful information in an SOP, where we could look and see all this. And you think, how can you do that? How do you serve your community best? And what is your community? Who are your peeps? And how can you serve them?
That's exactly right. Yeah. And the more you do that, the more it will come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, tell us, I mean, when you talk about making some of these, bold moves, I mean, I know a lot of people probably think of bold moves as these huge things, but I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine some bold moves are some really small steps to making a change. I mean, tell us what are some bold moves you might recommend if people are listening and they're thinking maybe they want to start a new practice area or something. I mean, what are some of those bold moves?
So first is what you just mentioned. Niche it down as much as you can. And that for many people is counterintuitive, but
Right.
That's your very first step. And secondly, then look at, do market research. Now, I laugh when I say that because the first time somebody said it to me, I'm like, what? I have to go hire a marketing company? What are you talking about? That's not what I'm talking about at all. Talk to, if you have current clients in the area that you're interested in, or if you don't, then that's where online is so helpful. Get into Facebook groups, get into social media groups. What are the issues? What are the biggest burning issues that your potential ideal clients are dealing with? And how can you address that for them? How can you give them helpful information about whatever it is they're dealing with? So, I'll use my disability clients as an example. across the board, it didn't matter what their level of education was. They had an incredibly high level of frustration with the process, which is totally understandable.
Yep.
And I had a huge amount of free information, videos, written information, in-person seminars, you name it, I did it to simply explain the process to people. It wasn't, it wasn't complicated in terms of the information I was providing, but it was something that they were having trouble getting elsewhere in an understandable way. In my view, anything that you can do that can get you face-to-face, and it might be, face-to-face online, but can actually get you talking to the people that you want to serve and hearing from them and responding to them, is something that you want to do, because people want that, especially now after all these years of COVID and isolation, et cetera. People want that interaction and feeling of community. So, it might be something as simple as, you're doing Facebook Lives, you're doing in-person. I used to do in-person seminars, free seminars for people who had questions about what in the world is this disability stuff all about. And I did it regularly. And I mean, personally, I loved it because I love talking to them. But for many of those people never became clients, but they got great information, and that was fine. So, think about the ways that you can help people by put yourself in their shoes. What do they need? And if you can think of a way that you can give them helpful information that they need, do it. Do it, even though it may not be the standard. This is how lawyers are supposed to market themselves. Forget that. Forget how you're supposed to market yourself. And put yourself in your potential client's shoes. That, to me, is the best thing that you can do. Because once you start thinking like your potential client does, then you understand much better.
It makes what you can do to help. The difference. Yes. Well, and one thing I'm going to add that I think sometimes we lawyers forget. We tend to talk with a lot of big words, I find, and we say things like about motions, and, we just use big words that people don't use in their regular daily discourse. And so I find that when I talk to people, really talking to people like at an 8th grade level, even a 5th grade level, and I'm not saying they have a 5th grade education or an 8th grade education, but realizing that all my lawyer nonsense talk is just that. It's nonsense. It doesn't make any sense to anybody who didn't go to law school and spend 20 years, doing it. And so to lose it all and really be able to talk to people just like they're regular folks. And I find that is really helpful in helping people, especially like you're talking about, understanding the process, because boy, can we lawyers create some convoluted processes.
Oh, indeed. Indeed. And the other exactly. The other thing that I found, now I was in a B2C business to consumers. The other thing that I found that we forgot all the time was this may be the first time they've ever had to call a law firm. And I would have clients feel like they needed to be all buttoned down because lawyers are all buttoned down. They'd say, "Oh, Miss Christie." I'm like, wait. No, I'm Sharon. Please, I can call you by your first name. Yeah, you really can. It's fine because I'm going to call you by your first name. So, but anything you could do to bring down sort of the tension level for the client, do it. And if it's be casual, then be casual.
Exactly.
It's going to go much better.
So agree. I mean, just being a regular person and admitting when you don't know something. I mean, I find that, I can't count the times I've had to say, I have no idea, but I'll get you the answer, but I don't know it. And not being like guilty or upset or ashamed that I don't know, and just realizing that it's okay. I mean, you can't know all the legal things, or maybe it's just me, but I don't think it's just me. I think most of us can't know everything. And And it's okay to say, I don't know.
It's totally okay to say, I don't know. I would frequently say, they would be asking me questions and I'd say, I have no idea, but you know what? You know who does know? My paralegal knows, because she deals with that all the time. I'm going to find out, and either she or I are going to call you back and tell you, or send you an email and fill you in. Or just as you said, I have no idea. I've said to clients, nobody's ever asked me that. I have no idea, but I'll find out and I'll get back to you. And I did. That's the other part, you know.
Yeah.
You got to make sure you get back to them. But it's almost like you almost feel like threatened, like I'm not a good enough lawyer if I don't know this. That's crazy.
That's crazy,
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And just, I mean, yeah, I think, I just wish we all could let go more and more of that idea of perfectionism, and realizing that, I mean, we don't know things. We're going to make mistake after mistake after mistake, and that is okay. And that is just part of life. I'm not at all saying we don't try to avoid mistakes, of course, and learn from them. But I mean, mistakes are inevitable, I think, in all of life. And I mean, we got to get comfortable with that, and being able to learn from those things. I said actually to my team this morning, I was dealing with something privately with somebody, and it occurred to me I needed to say it more publicly. And so I put something out on our Slack channel. I look at mistakes as, if you strive to be excellent in what you do, kind of like you were mentioning, strive to be the best attorney, the best mom you can be, all those things, you do the best you can in the moment with the information you have. And then if you treat people from a place of compassion and care, and then if you have integrity in all your interactions, like you are telling the truth, you are coming at things from a place of curiosity, looking for the truth, no matter what mistake you made, you're going to be able to fix it pretty readily.
Correct.
You know?
Correct.
And so in my mind, that is such kind of an easy way to operate. Like if you're operating with those three things, excellence, compassion, and integrity, it's all going to be okay.
It is going to be okay. Yes. And I would tell my team, listen, I made mistakes, and, I have to fess up when I did. Yeah. They made mistakes. I said, these are our opportunities to learn. Yeah. Why did it happen? How did it happen? Now, what can we do so it doesn't happen again?
Absolutely.
And as long as we're doing that, as you said, there's nothing, absent, because I was a litigator, statute of limitations, that's pretty unfixable. But other than that, there's nothing, no mistake that we can't fix. But I can't fix it if you don't tell me about it.
Right. That is but I think that ties into your work so well, because you think of those intensive. It's those things that are running around in our head that are maybe a potential mistake, or maybe a potential problem that we're not seeing the full picture of. And those intensives with you can really help uncover and actually course correct probably some things, I would think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And that's the value, as you said, that's the value of somebody who's totally disconnected from your practice, being able to look at it as a complete outsider, with obviously background, but a complete outsider from your practice, to say, okay, let's break this down and let's figure out how to make things flow in a much better way than they are now, or let's figure out this struggle, because there is an answer. There is an answer.
There's always an answer. I just love that. I mean, the idea that you do these intensives lights me up like none other. And of course, I'm going to be calling you because Absolutely. I think of things where, you're just running around in your head. And again, I know I'm not the only one who has these things running around in my head, where I find myself thinking about a problem over and over again. And a lot of times you do need that just completely objective sounding board to help you just think through your logic and make sure you're logically viewing this problem, and you haven't got yourself caught up in something.
Exactly. Yeah. So.
I just love that. Well, Sharon, I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you, getting to know about your business. Tell us, how can listeners find you? Like, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The best way is email me, Sharon, SHARON, at boldwomenlawyers.com, or go to my website, boldwomenlawyers.com. I do a complimentary free practice and profit audit. Let's talk about what your issues are. And, maybe there's a way we can work together, maybe not, but I can guarantee that you will come away with at least one actionable step to take, whether we work together or not. So those are the best ways. You can also find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. So
perfect.
Any of those ways will work.
I am so grateful for your time today in sharing your knowledge and your expertise with the Maximum Mom audience. I mean, we have so many amazing moms that listen to the Maximum Mom, and I know all of us will be interested to learn more about you. So I appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy your beach vacation.
I will. Thank you. Thank you so much, Elise. This has been wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I can't wait to connect again. Thank you.